Hello, good people of YouTube, Mountbatten here, and today we're talking about the Marco Polo again. I wasn't originally intending for today's video to be about the Marco Polo again, because normally the second impressions video takes some time to come out, because I normally like to get a pretty healthy amount of battles under my belt in the ship before I come out with the second impressions video. However, there seems to be a divide with the Marco Polo in most players' opinion on it. So apparently I was one of the few yesterday that said that the Marco Polo was a good ship. It seems that the vast majority of other players are along the camp that this ship is quite terrible. It's not terrible. It's really been overblown. Even if you think the ship's bad, I completely understand why. We'll get to those points here in a moment. But even if you think it's bad, it's far from terrible. It's far from as bad as some people are making it out to be. The ship is definitely one of the more frustrating ships to play. I agree with that, especially after having playing it for a while longer since yesterday's video came out. I'm of course a teacher. I don't have a whole lot of free time, so I normally have about 2 to 3 hours to work on a video when I get off of work, and that's why some of my videos are made days in advance. They're made over a couple of days before they come out. But the first impressions videos are generally made within 2 to 3 hours. The Marco Polo review was 4 hours, just because of some of the matches I was having. I played it a bit more afterwards too to get a better feel for it. And of course I played her when I got home today from work, and just to make sure that I just didn't get, lucky with my matches, and which I didn't think I was, because like I said yesterday, I was getting a lot of blowout matches where the matches really didn't last for too long, and I didn't have a lot of time to do a lot of damage in the ship. But in the matches that I was playing, I was coming, either first, second, or third on the leaderboard in my team, even the blowout losses too. For example, the 75,000 damage match that only lasted 6 minutes, I was top of the team. I didn't even feel like I did that much that match, but again, that's just how some high tier matches go nowadays. But anyway, so a lot of the points being brought up about the Marco Polo is that, well, the first and biggest complaint is that the guns are frustrating to use, which they are, I'll admit that. But it seems that I'm not sure if we've all been jaded by Deadeye a bit, because Deadeye has made almost every high-tier battleship insanely consistent with its guns. Even if you put Deadeye on German battleships' guns, they will become tremendously more consistent. And like I said in yesterday's video, Marco Polo is reminding me of Battleship Dispersion pre-Deadeye. And I believe I mentioned it was like Iowa pre-Deadeye, and before they made the changes to the ellipse of the American battleships a little while ago. It felt like that. But I was still getting hits. And when using SAP, because the alpha damage on the SAP is so darn high, if you get hits with the SAP, it can do up to 1,400 damage if it pins fully, which of course that's pretty insane, but you don't always get full pins. But I was finding in yesterday's playthroughs of Marco Polo that I was getting like either around 8, 7, or 6k damage a hit with SAP, which is just with even having 1 or 2 shells connect. And when a healthy amount of shells, like 4 or 5, would connect, then now you're doing some real chunky damage. You're up there like the 10s or the 15,000 range with the SAP. And I even mentioned the AP that much in yesterday's video. In the match you're watching right now, I use a lot of AP because there's a lot of close-in action in this match against mostly battleships, which is when you need to switch over to AP a bit more, especially when they're showing you broadside, like the ones that you will see here in a moment. I'm not saying they sell completely broadside. I'm just saying that, the opportunity presented itself to shoot their broadside, so I loaded AP and shot their broadside. They weren't selling broadside the entire match, so it wasn't one of those situations. But anyway, the AP is actually very, very, very good. It's that Italian/Soviet insane high velocity, insane pin AP, but just like the SAP, the Dispersion isn't all that great. So, you don't hit a lot, but when you do, you hurt the ship that you're shooting at, especially if you manage to aim for those chunky bits and the shots connect on those chunky bits. Now, again, this is a lot to do with the Dispersion. It is frustrating, but if the thing didn't have SAP and it had HE, and it still had the same accuracy parameters that it has now, with the same dispersion, the same wonky vertical dispersion. I'm sorry, horizontal dispersion. No, vertical dispersion. My bad. Yeah, the vertical dispersion is the one that's wonky here. If you notice, the shells kind of make an oval as they fly through the air, and that's really weird, especially when you're trying to hit targets at range. But if it had HE and AP and it still had the same parameters that it has now, I would say it would be quite bad. But because you have that sap, and you only really need to get like 3 shells to connect to be doing around 10,000 damage, yeah, it's okay, for me at least. I think the ship's pretty balanced, and I don't know, again, if we've just been treated to too many kind of overtuned premiums like the Thunderer, where you can use whatever munition you want and still easily do over 100,000 damage in the match. I don't know if that's the situation that a lot of people are trying to view this from, especially with Deadeye on some of those premiums like that. But the ship still does fine, for me at least. And I'm not an amazing player. I'm a pretty decent battleship player. I have, of course, most of the like 7,000 matches I have in this game so far have been in battleships. I've branched off to cruisers in the last year. I consider myself to be a decent cruiser player. I was getting into DDs this year. I'm considering myself to be a mediocre DD player, better in some DDs than others. Mostly gunboats, of course, because those are the funnest for me to play, at least. But it just seems like I said yesterday, a really solid battleship. It's not nothing you can just go into a game and then just magically get 175,000 damage without even trying. You do have to try. You have to put a fair bit of effort into getting your damage. It's not like the Thunder where you can sit in the back, snipe, and get away with it. I've found great success playing it as a medium-ish range battleship. And I'm not saying go brawl in the thing and don't put a secondary build on it, but playing at medium range. And I'm actually about to take Deadeye off of my Marco Polo, because most of the matches I've been having in it are within my concealment range, and it's just kind of a waste of a 4-point skill right now. Like the match you're watching right now, most of the damage that I got in this match, Deadeye wasn't active. And it's apparent that it wasn't active because the shells are going, well, all over the place. But because it's SAP and because of how good the AP is, they're connecting enough to do a decent bit of damage. And yes, I do wish the accuracy was a bit better. I do. It could probably be buffed a little bit and be perfectly fine. But that's the way it is right now, and that's why I said it's a good ship. It's not a drop what you're doing and get it now ship, but it's a good ship. And like I said yesterday too, it probably will come into its own in competitive. I don't know how it's going to do in clan battles. The ability to kind of remove cruisers in a couple of salvos might prove to be quite useful. It is more accurate than the Lepanto, and it has more range than the Lepanto as well, especially with the spotter plane, and then you can put the range mod on it too and really get it out there and really start delivering pizza at 25 kilometers away and further. So it might come into its own there, but for random battles, still, I have over 100,000 damage average in the ship right now. I've gotten several matches since last night in like the 140, 130,000 range. Haven't broken the 150,000 barrier just yet in it, which it's a tier 9 battleship, so I mean 140, 130,000 damage is, I would consider that to be decent. It's not amazing for sure, it's not underwhelming either, but it's pretty decent. And again, the aiming is a little wonky. I'm not sure if it's a bug or if it's just the way the shells are, because some shells and some guns are like this. You have to aim a little lower, but my shells are landing way up from where I'm aiming at. You can see that happen in this match for sure, and you can kind of see my frustration there too. But I started aiming a little bit lower, and voila, the shells are hitting more and more consistently. Again, I don't know if that's an aiming bug or if it's just the way the shells are, because it's like, again, like against some ships, you do have to aim lower because of the shell arcs, but this is like aiming in the water, shells are still hitting the broadside of the ship. Again, it's probably the vertical dispersion. That's what I'm thinking so far. Could be a bug, but I have a suspicion it's just the vertical dispersion. Other than that, the main battery guns, which is, again, most people's main complaint. The other complaint is that it is very low health for a tier 9 ship. And that's true. It does have a lower health pool than most tier 9 ships. It's got roughly the same as like the Jean Bar, which is a tier 8 hull up tier to tier 9. So that is true. It does have like tier 8 health at tier 9. And yeah, it sure does. It does. But the bow armor is pretty good. You got that cheek plating there. If you angle and entice people to shoot that, that'll allow you to tank quite a bit of damage. But I did say in yesterday's video that yes, that is one of the weaknesses of the ship. She does have a lower than average hit pool for tier 9 ships, but she's also pretty darn maneuverable. And I'm not saying like Vanguard levels of maneuverability, but for a tier 9 ship, she can turn pretty darn good. If you go play like an Iowa or Sovietsky Soyuz or some of the bigger tier 9 battleships, they take a hot minute to turn. The Marco Polo doesn't really. And again, it's not like Vanguard levels of maneuverability, but she can turn. I've dodged many a torpedo in her, and it's fun. It's a really, really fun ship to play, for me at least. Again, playing at mid-range, using her maneuverability, and trying to angle, and not get blapped. Now, of course, if you do mess up, you're going to get punched hard, really hard, because of the way your Citadel is. It's kind of submerged, but enough of it is above the waterline to where if you get caught broadside by a battleship, it's going to hurt. AA is another thing that was brought up. I didn't run to any CV games when I was playing her the first night, so like I had like 5 games with no CVs, which was fantastic. But I have had CV games since then, and yeah, AA is not this thing's strong suit. That 76 AA rating is a whole lie. It's very short range AA. It's around 4 kilometers. I didn't really look at that because like AA in general is just like now. But even with AA, Marco Polo has AA, if you will. So yeah, AA is not the thing's strong suit. And to get the range out of it, you do need to keep the spotter plane equipped. At least with the build that I'm running, that's what I'm still going with. But if you do take the range mod, of course, you now have a 36-second reload time on 9 16-inch guns at tier 9, which isn't the best deal ever. But I guess if you want to do that, you could. But the build I'm using has worked just fine for me so far. I've been in tier 10 games, I've been top tier in matches, I've been mid tier in matches, and the ship has just been working for me. And again, like I said, I am a battleship main. That probably has something to do with it, but from a battleship main's perspective, this ship is solid and it can work and it's pretty good. Again, I'm not saying drop what you're doing and go drop $80 on this thing. No, I even said that in yesterday's video. Just save up the coal and get it. The only reason to get this above Palmern is if you're going to be doing a lot of competitive like Clan War stuff. Again, with the SAP, this thing's a cruiser remover from modes like Clan Wars where there's going to be lots of cruisers, or like Rank 2 where there's lots of, well, there's a decent bit of cruisers in Rank, but anything where there's a heavy cruiser composition, this ship will succeed very, very, very well. So I guess this is kind of the second impressions review for the Marco Polo, but I guess this is my defense of the Marco Polo. And if you still think the ship's bad, okay. It's your opinion. I'm not going to badger you for thinking the ship's bad. I just wanted to come out here and kind of explain my thoughts on her a little bit more, especially after playing her a fair bit more since the first impressions video. But still, I don't agree with people that are saying that it's like terrible and like the worst thing ever. It's far from that. Like, the worst ever tier 9 battleship was like pre-buff Izumo. And this thing's nowhere near pre-buff Izumo. Like, this thing is miles and miles and miles away from where the Izumo was before she received her series of buffs a couple of years ago. So yeah, that's the thing about the Marco Polo. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. We're on our way now to 25,000 subscribers. If you want to see me play the Marco Polo, I will be doing that live on the channel tonight and on Twitch as well from 5 p.m. U.S. Central Time to 8 p.m. U.S. Central Time. So please come and check us out, and I'll be playing a lot of Marco Polo that night if you want to see what it's like live. Anyway, guys, hope you guys are having a wonderful Friday. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.